Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started here. We do have a good chunk of students and we do have some information to get through, so we want to have as much time. So as Chirag mentioned, as Professor Veriawa mentioned, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. And thank you so much for attending our Track 1 Engineering live stream today. My name is Nicola, and I am a recruitment officer at the Faculty of Applied Science and Engineering here at U of T. Today, I am joined with Professor Chirag Veriawa and Emily Gordikov from from traditionally our Track 1, but of course, because Track 1 is only for first year, they are part of new programs as well, which we'll get into in a bit more in just a few seconds here. So just a few housekeeping things before we do get started. Today's live stream really is to showcase and highlight the Track 1 program. So please bear in mind, we won't really be taking any admission-based questions on screen. However, our colleague Jessica, who is in the chat, she will be providing you with specific links, contact information, and she'll try to answer any questions that you might have about the admissions side. But really for the presentation side, we'll really be focusing on Track 1 engineering. Moreover, if you do have any questions about Track 1, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. And as I mentioned, we have some questions prepped already, but we'll be more than happy to jump back and forth between attendee questions and pre-prepared questions as well. So without further ado, I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. Just let us know, what you do at U of T here, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the questions. So Professor Veriawa, if you don't mind starting, and then Emily, we'll go to you as well.
Sure, happy to, but I think students should go first.
Emily, please go ahead.
Emily, let's go first, if you're okay with that.
I'm great with that. So hello, everyone, wherever you are. I'm Emily, and I'm a second-year student here at University of Toronto. And I was studying Track 1 last year, Track 1 best one, as they say. But I declared at the very end of the year, which discipline I wanted to go into. And now I'm in industrial engineering. And I'm also from Dallas, Texas. So all the people from the US, I understand what the process is like applying to a school in Canada.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emily. And Professor Veriawa?
Sure. I can't beat that. I'm not from Dallas. Born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, and spent my life here. The city does mean a lot to me. Certainly traveled a significant amount, though not in the recent month or few months. I have the pleasure and privilege of being the director of the first year curriculum, an assistant professor teaching stream here at the Faculty of Applied Science and Engineering. And part of my role here is to work with all of the students, and particularly the instructors and professors and staff who coordinate the first year experience, and kind of work with prospective students, recruiting students a bit through seminars and such as these. But you'll really see me in front of students. So I'll be your professor for computer programming. So that's a core course that all students will take, as well as orientation to engineering. So that's a class of about 1,100 students where we talk about things from time management and creating your schedule so that you have a wonderful chance at success, and also for resume building and things like that, as we wrap in all of the technical nuances of the engineering profession as you are learning in the first year. I'm also part of the first year design course called Engineering Strategies and Practice as an engineering manager for that. So you'll see me in that course as well. A little bit of background, I guess. My background is in the intersection of engineering education and artificial intelligence and machine learning. So in my PhD, I was able to create a few algorithms and worked with people who create the algorithms behind your smart devices. So, Siri and so on. So, if you say, should I wear a jacket tomorrow? It will take jacket. Article of clothing, worn in the winter. Winter is known for its climate, and the climate is akin to temperature. So it'll tell you what the temperature is. So that sort of smart processing and so on. And so I have the privilege of working with colleagues, other faculty members, other professors who have an incredible wealth of experiences globally as well as locally. And so we all come together to teach in the first year and in upper years. And also for graduate students, for master's and PhD students as they progress. So thank you for spending your time with us. let's get on with a few questions.
Yeah, of course. So the first question, we actually have a panelist attendee question, which really goes into our first question as well. So is the program track one only for first year? And then after first year, we get to specialize in a program. So I guess that really goes hand in hand with what is track one undeclared engineering. And Professor Variawa, I was wondering if you don't mind sharing a few slides that you have on your end, just as a general introduction to what track one engineering is at U of T.
Sure. Okay. So let's do that here.
And then Emily, after Professor Variawa shows his slides, I'd love to hear from you just, why you went into track one and why that was your choice.
Okay. So it's not a full out presentation necessarily, just a few slides to help demonstrate my point here. Just a moment, I will go to share screen, share number 2. Here we go. So you should be able to see this screen that says, what is track one? For some of you, you may have seen this before, but if you haven't, just a 30-second recap. So we have the program of track one is basically one that allows you to sample all of the various other engineering programs we have here in the first year. It is a general first year experience, but what Core 8, the track one program does, is that it allows you to select which program you want to go into. And so if students want to go into, say, computer engineering for second year or third year, fourth year, they can choose that right at the end of the first year. So the track one program is only for the first year. In that first year, you get to sample courses from all of the different programs, and you can enter that. Your guaranteed choice of that program only happens if your average is above 60, okay? And approximately 180 students are admitted to track one. Essentially a seamless transition into second year. And of course, the courses that you take are a sample of all the first ones. Really, that's the main difference, if anything, in that folks who apply to the track one program can get into these other programs for their second year. If you have an average above 60, which is fairly common.
Awesome. And Emily, shifting focus to you, why did you go ahead and enroll in track one or apply for track one specifically?
So when I was going through like the application process for university, I really had like no idea what I wanted to do with my life, no clue what I was doing. And so what I liked about track one is I liked the idea that I could learn about what I was doing instead of just go like straight into something. Just because I think like university is an important step. Like if you do choose to go to university, it's like an important thing since you're spending the next like 4 to 5 or more years of your life here. And I just think it's important that you like make the best decision for yourself. And what I liked about track one is that it allowed me to make that best decision for myself. Just because there's like there's a seminar course that you have second semester where you're getting to learn about all of the different disciplines. And you're also like taking a variety of courses too throughout your first and second semester, which also kind of gives you a taste for different kinds of like disciplines and what you would study. And so what I liked about track one is it kind of gave me that time that I needed to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And it also gave me the resources too, just because I feel like that's something important. Like the two go hand in hand. Like you don't just need time, you also need like the resources to help you make that decision. So that was something that I really liked about track one. And it was the reason I chose it in the end. Just because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and track one gave me like everything I needed in order to make my decision. And at the end of the year, I was super happy with the decision I made. And now that I'm in industrial engineering, I'm even happier. I love it. So I think it's a great discipline. And I do think it's good that I had the time that I needed to make that choice.
That's wonderful. That's so great to hear. Kind of focusing on your experience, Emily, I think a lot of times we get the question, do students have the same opportunities in track one for that first year as other students who enroll directly into a Core 8 program do?
Yeah, so one of the big things that I think is important to know is that as a track one student, you're essentially taking the same courses as a student in any other Core 8. There's like a few variations, like maybe like one course or two that you're not taking with some other discipline, but for the most part, you are taking the same courses as everyone else in the Core 8. They try and make the first year curriculum for the Core 8 and track one programs pretty general, just so that everyone is getting that same type of knowledge and you're not like, you don't have people in the Core 8s who have more specialized knowledge and track ones don't in that first year. They're trying to make sure everyone has like a more general base. And I think that's one of the things that helps. Like Core 8s aren't like super far ahead. But another thing is like if you are in track one, you like always have the opportunity to like make your decision at the end of the year. But if you choose to go directly into a program and you like change your mind at the end of your year in first year, it's just a little bit harder to transfer. So that's another one of the benefits. Sometimes you don't know when you're going directly into university which program you want to go into. Maybe like you have an idea, but sometimes it's better to go into track one just in case you change your mind when you actually see what the courses are like.
That's awesome. And speaking to the courses, Shrag, do you mind putting up that slide that talks about your fall and winter term, just so the attendees get a better idea of what that first year might look like for them?
Of course, yes. Before I do, I just wanted to pick up on a brief point that Emily made, and that is that it's a general first year curriculum. So independent of what program you get into, you get you get the same courses. But if you're a track one student, you also have the option of choosing one or two computer programming courses. That is, if you're the fall term is the same for everybody. The winter term, there's two different computer programming courses. One that goes into Python, the programming language, another one that goes into C++. And so track one students get to select which one you want to go into if you want to, or by default, you're going into the C++ one. Either way, you're not at a disadvantage. If anything, you have a selection if you want to make it. And that kind of begs the question, what courses do we take anyways? So here's that slide again for those of you who might be interested. For some of you might be seeing this for the second or third time. I'll show you that in the fall term. So when you join in September, we'll see you in Calculus 1, where you learn about differential equations, rates of change, and Riemann sums, things like that. We don't really get into integration that much into the fall term right off the bat, because we want to make sure that everybody has a common understanding of the basic principles. Then we go into engineering chemistry and material science, looking at structure and property relationships between atoms, lattice arrangements of atoms, and the ways in which they affect the property of those materials. And then is engineering strategies and practice. And that course is really your design, team, and communication course. Here, you're provided with a real life problem, and then you solve it, or you understand it and then solve it. Then linear algebra with matrices and working with MATLAB. Mechanics, which is the forces on structures and so on. And then, of course, orientation to engineering, where that's the course that I teach at the moment. Essentially bringing in guest speakers, so we and having wonderful conversations with them, including the Dean of Engineering, the President of the Canadian Engineering Accreditation, or the Professional Engineers of Ontario, and several other experts in the field. Moving on to Calculus 2, that's where we really jump into integration and the more advanced concepts, integration by parts, etc. Computer fundamentals, so track 1 students can choose they want to take a course based on the Python programming language, which is designed for folks who have no programming experience at all, which are many of our students, or C++, which is slightly more involved, but certainly kind of maps a little bit closer to the second year ECE curriculum, the electrical and computer engineering curriculum. You then have dynamics, which is forces on moving objects, electrical fundamentals, so circuits. A second part of the engineering strategies and practice course. This is a very, very special and signature course for the first year experience, particularly because, with 1,100 or so students, students are grouped into groups of about 5 or 6. And each group is given a real engineering project to work with for the duration of the term, often with somebody in the community. So, if we were in person, what we would do is you would be given the contact information of a person in the community. You and your team would then be traveling to their location, investigating the problem, coming up with solutions, and then presenting those solutions in a formal setting. We've got an online version of that, which we're deploying as things are still online for the time being. And then you have your department-specific orientation courses. So, more guest speakers and so on. For the Track 1 program, we have the Track 1 seminars. And maybe this is an opportunity for me to toss it back to Emily very briefly. Can you talk about those Track 1 seminars here in the winter term?
I can. So basically Track 1 seminars where you had a class or like a seminar spot every Tuesday in Track 1. And essentially what would happen is you'd have someone from each of the disciplines come in and try and talk to you about their discipline and the different like job opportunities and why you should come into it. But I think like essentially what was really important is they would each present in a different way. Like the chemical engineering department had a certain way that they presented their information. It was different from like how mineral engineering presented it, but basically they're all trying to talk about why why they went into their discipline and kind of like the different opportunities that you can have if you go into it, whether that's like the different types of jobs, the different types of courses that you can take in your upper years, the different streams that there are within every discipline. So kind of just like their way of selling the program a bit to you, but also showing you everything that there is to it. And sometimes they brought in like old track one students who came into that discipline to also kind of show you like students who were like indecisive who went into like that decided program. So the track one seminars are really just like a great place for you to learn a little bit more about the program, like from someone who is a professional and who is experienced, because like you can also learn about it like on your own online or like from upper year students, but it's great to hear about it from like a member of faculty, like who's been in the field for a while and who has a lot of experience and knows what they're talking about. But I think for me, what really helped with the track one seminars is hearing a lot about like the different types of jobs that you can get with this, like what different types of jobs are there like in industrial engineering. Like it's not just like going into data science, but there's also like human factors jobs. Like you can work on subway lines, you can work in hospitals. And I just thought it was like really interesting, like for me to hear about like the different types of opportunities, because in a lot of the engineerings, it's not just like one type of job. So I think that's like one really great thing about these seminars that there is.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you both so very much. Chirag answered one of the questions in the chat, but I'd love to hear from you as well, Emily, in terms of, do you feel like you were disadvantaged in any way taking track one in first year versus the question mentions computer engineering, but I think it's speaks the same for any really second, third, and fourth year program. Do you feel like you were well prepared going into that second year?
I thought I was really well prepared. I don't think there's any disadvantage into starting in track one. I think you like have the same year essentially, and it's a good transition.
Nice. And then in terms of going back to you, Emily, and Chirag, if you want to hop on this as well, are there any supports or services available to student when making their decision going from first year into second year, specifically again for track one students?
Yeah, actually, this is something that I like to talk about quite often, but within track one, well, all of the first year students have this thing called the first year office where you can go to for any kind of resources. But within the first year office, you actually get a track one advisor who's there just for your first year in track one. Her name is MZ. She's really awesome and she's like always there to help. And so she's there to help you out if you need help with your decision, just because she's seen the process happen like for a while now. She's seen students go through it and maybe sometimes struggle with the decision they want to make. So if you do need help with your decision and you do want something like track one specific and someone who knows what they're talking about, like that's what the track one advisor is there for, like a lot of reasons, but this is one of them too, to help you out with your decision and to support you through that. But you also have the first year office in general, and you have a lot of upper year old track one students who are willing to always give you support.
Yeah. Chirag, anything to add? Yeah, please.
I just wanted to respond to the question that's in the chat when the time comes.
Oh, yeah.
So the question that's in the chat is, since track one covers small aspects of all the Core 8 programs, doesn't that imply that track one students will have a greater abundance of courses than Core 8 students in their first year? So there's an aspect to that question that is actually factually incorrect, and that is that saying track one has a greater abundance of courses. So I will repeat myself by saying that every student in first year engineering, whether you're in materials engineering, mechanical, chemistry, or chemical engineering, or track one, has the same courses that you're going to be taking. They all take a common first year experience. The differentiating factor between those programs in Core 8, track one, is that in the track one program, you get to select which stream you want to go to in the second year. So for example, if you're a mechanical engineering student in the first year, you're going to be sitting next to a chemical engineering student from first year who's sitting next to a track one student from first year. Okay. When it gets to the time between your first year and your second year, the first year student in track one will be asked the question, okay, what program do you want to get into for your second year? Do you want to go to chemical engineering? Do you want to go into computer engineering? And based on that response, that student then gets into that particular department. So everybody gets a general first year. And to reiterate, or actually just introduce, on your degree, it will not say the program that you're graduating from, but it will say Bachelor of Applied Science, which is the degree. Okay, it will not say Bachelor of Applied Science in track one or in mechanical engineering or whichever. You might be asking, well, what's the difference between a Bachelor of Applied Science, a BASC, versus a BEng? Well, a BASC is a very highly regarded degree. It's the kinds that they give out in research-intensive institutions. So you're not only learning about the practice of how to apply engineering, but the theory behind it. So a lot of people look at graduates from the engineering program at U of T and they say, well, hang on a second, I'm not only getting an engineer who knows the practical applications of math and science, but also the theoretical aspects behind that, right? So as I mentioned before, one of the courses you take in the first term is engineering, chemistry, and material science, right? So the graduates from here will know at an atomic level how the relationship between atoms affects the property of the material that you have selected for a particular application, right? So you see this wood paneling behind me, which is actually a picture from one of our new lecture theaters for all of our students. You will know the difference between arranging a piece of wood lengthwise versus perpendicular to that, right? And how that structure property relationship is different. So you're not only saying, oh yeah, you're going to put some wood on there, but you're going to say, yes, this is the kind of wood, this is the orientation of the wood, and this is why you should be doing it. So it's a much richer experience. And, you know, partner institutions, peer institutions such as MIT and other tier one institutions across North America and the world generally give out BASC degrees, not BEng degrees. So there's one. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much, Greg. I wanted to just jump back. I know there was a question a bit earlier regarding co-op opportunities for Track 1 students. And I just want to answer that in terms of course, if you enroll in Track 1, because Track 1 only focuses on your first year, and then you again specialize in a specific core 8 program in your upper years, you do have access to the co-op program as a Track 1 student as well. Again, it is completely optional, but you certainly have access to the co-op program. I think this is a really great question. I know we're running low on time, so it might be our last question, but I do want to pose it to the both of you in terms of what advantages or what do you find being or in studying in Toronto adds to the experience of studying engineering? Meaning, what opportunities have you discovered for students of all years that might not exist if we studied somewhere else outside of Toronto? I'll pose it to either of you if one of you wants to begin.
Emily, why don't you start, because you're the student here.
So I'm still thinking a little bit about that question, but I do think that Toronto, especially as someone from Dallas, I think Toronto is just like a very, very cool city. Like pretty different from a lot of cities in my opinion, just because like, so it's so diverse. Like for example, food wise, like you'll find food, like all types of food. Like I was actually talking to my friends about it recently, like back home in Dallas, like you'll find some good Tex-Mex, like maybe some good edible cookie dough restaurants, but there's not that much variety. But in Toronto, like if I'm craving literally anything, like I can find it. And so I think that just like speaks volumes, not just about like the food, but also just like the people here, like the different types of things that there are to do here. I think it's really great to be like in such an area that definitely encourages diversity and is super welcoming. But I just think like, it's such like cool is the word I'm going to come back to, because it really is a very cool city. Just like a very like it's kind of like a fast moving city, but I feel like it's definitely like encouraging me a lot of the times, just because like it's really like great to be in this space, and there's like so many different things to do like on your free time here too. I'm like, to be honest, like I'm not sure how to answer this question. It's a pretty big question, but what I would say is I really like being here in Toronto, just because like it makes me feel really happy to be here. There's like a lot of different things here that I like, and I think studying engineering is great here, just because you're getting to pursue like the academic side at U of T, but then on your own time, there's like so many different types of things you can do, whether that's like going to the waterfront, going to a museum, like going out to eat food. There's like a range of activities you could do. And I think it's like, you have like so many different things that you can do, because like you're not like in the middle of nowhere. You're like surrounded by so many different things. So I just think it's a great city to study in.
Mm-hmm. Can I pick up on that?
Yeah, of course.
So I want to be able to respond to these questions in the chat as to the best of my ability in the time that we have. So let's start with this one. What happens if you get a grade below 60? Well, there's still a spot for you, right? To continue on and to move on. There's programs for that. Your options might be a bit more selective. You know, if you're coming in thinking about aiming for a 50 or a 60, you're not in the right mindset. You want to aim as high as you can. U of T has a reputation for being a academically forward institution, certainly very high standards, and it is very challenging. And so your entrance grades are going to prepare you for that level of challenge moving forward. With that being said, there is a spot for you even if you get below a 60. It might be probation related and so on. Being in Toronto is fantastic. There's a number of resources in this highly diverse and very safe city. As you know, not just healthcare related, but with respect to safety and security of people here. So if you are traveling here, or if you are from the city or the surrounding region, you'll understand that Toronto is a very safe city to be in. And with that, there's lots of learning that can be established too. Great partnerships with people around the city, highly mobile, and certainly very friendly. You might be considering, oh, well, it's too cold here in Canada. Well, quite frankly, it gets cold in other parts of the world. There are mechanisms to cope, and there's lots of things to do in the winter as well as the summer and the fall and the spring. So we get all 4 seasons here. So that's wonderful. Co-op related experiences, they begin at the around the 3rd and 4th year or 2nd to 3rd year mark. So it doesn't really affect the 1st year experience so far. Students who are in track 1 will be going into a department for the 2nd year program and subsequently, and that's where you select your co-op experience. So theoretically, every student can get a co-op position, even though we are in an online environment. The Engineering Career Center has recently expanded significantly to offer significantly more opportunities in coaching, which begins right at the 1st year level. So the incoming class of 1st year students will be going through that new program, which is still being improved, as Emily will know, moving forward. So that's a little bit there. I will just say that, having taught engineering at a great institution in Boston, and then coming back to Toronto, a choice that I made, I've certainly very much appreciated my choice in coming back to Toronto. It's a great place to be, highly collaborative. So the instructors and the faculty and staff and students certainly collaborate with each other because there's so much to learn from each other, right? We bring in global experiences and cultivate those experiences for the sake of learning and personal development as well. So highly recommended. I'm not here to sell the program, but I will just say that we take a lot of pride in each and every one of our students and their successes, but we also support our students through their failures, because failures are also learning opportunities for students. We believe very, very strongly in supporting our students through difficult times, as well as their more positive times moving forward. Here's one thing that I will just share. One of my students, my undergraduate students, just completed their master's in engineering program. And so they just mailed me a copy of their thesis, which I'm proudly reading and holding close to me for their incredible efforts. So maybe one day we'll see you in a master's and PhD program, but until we get to there, maybe we'll see you in the track 1 program.
Wow, what a wonderful way to end the session. Thank you both so much, just for your time today, for speaking with us, with our participants today. I also want to thank Jessica on the back end, who was answering questions in the Q&A feature as well. And of course, most importantly, I want to thank our attendees today. We hope this session was informative. It gave you just a better idea of what track 1 engineering entails and the opportunities available to you if you do complete your track 1 studies. If you do have any additional questions revolving around anything to do with your application process, track 1, or any of the other programs, please feel free to email us at engineering@utoronto.ca, which my colleague Jessica will put in the chat in just a second here. So one more time, it's engineering@utoronto.ca. With that being said, one more time, thank you so much to you, Emily, and Professor Variawa for joining us today. And to everyone else, again, have a great afternoon, great rest of your morning, great evening. Stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you at U of T next year as well. Bye, everyone.